Yeah, surrender to the heart that's inside and leave behind all the lies and the thoughts of the mind. All these doubts and these fears try to blind, but when you transcend to this God, you will find. Give yourself time to refocus. Notice you are not hopeless. Your higher self knows this. Your feelings inside show this emotion can take you from closed into open to the wholeness. No more hypnosis and no more confusion. It's your true power.
Welcome to Synergy. Wynn, I'm going to let you introduce our awesome guest.
Yeah, first of all, hey everybody listening, and hello Isabel. Hey, Bryan is our guest today. Bryan Divisions on social media, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and Bryan is our guest today with our word that he has picked, as we do with our guests, and we haven't talked about the word yet, and we always like to be really impromptu with it. And as we get into it, we can start to talk about Bryan and how Bryan and my connection started and all that.
Yeah.
Nice.
And just before the beginning of the podcast, you heard some of Bryan's music, and we'll be talking about that too. So,
yeah,
Bryan, welcome to Synergy.
Yo, thank you guys. Thank you. Appreciate you having me. Like, this is super cool.
Yeah. I guess I could give a little intro right now. So. I've talked, I think, on most of our episodes how my wife and twin flame, Allison Holly, who lives out in Seattle, a couple years ago, we were in the Amazon, and Allison is a starseed. She loves to talk about starseed energy, and I don't know what she did, but she came across like an Instagram connection with Bryan, and I remember like I was out and about, and I came home, and Allison like had tears streaming down her eyes. And I was like, what is this? And she was like, I found a man who's singing like popular music about starseeds and Pleiades and our star origins and love. And she was just like, she was missing home so much that Bryan really rang a bell with her about kind of feeling that void of people who are also from different star systems, and they are aware of that in this lifetime. And then I never really connected with the music. I never really connected with Bryan. And then fast forward to a few months before now, and I'm in Atlanta, and I knew the guidance was for me to come to Asheville, which was unexpected. Asheville, North Carolina. So then it's like, who do I know in Asheville? And I remembered, well, Allison is connected with Bryan, so let me send him a message. Well, we never did intentionally connect. Like 2 months later, 2 days after Valentine's Day, actually, I randomly meet somebody in the middle of the day at a coffee shop I was spending a lot of time in. That person says, hey, you need to come to this music thing tonight. I'm like, okay, cool, sounds fine. But I can't get, like my motorcycle is too cold outside, blah, blah, blah. She's like, I'll pick you up. You're just going to have to find your own ride back. But anyway, like 2 acts in, all of a sudden the MC goes, and now, Bryan Divisions. I was like, what?
Yeah, that was crazy, man.
And since then, it has been this kind of funny little, like you said, intersecting path that we've keep crossing each other. It's really bizarre.
That's so awesome. That I love it. So Bryan, you have to share with me the word you pick for discussion today.
Yes.
Oh, so the word, technically some numbers. So 1111.
Yeah. So. Talk to us about what it means about your journey and all that. Like why did you pick that word?
Yeah, I feel like within 1111 and there's numbers and just there's symbols, I feel like we have the opportunity to talk a lot about what's important in life. It's just crazy because, I mean, to quickly give you an idea of what I believe those numbers represent, balance. We also have contrast between the duality of life that we live in. We have left and right. We have good and evil. We have masculine and feminine. We also have, when I see these numbers, 1111 is, a lot of people do, or different numbers, 444, 333. It evokes this sense of presence. And we just get kind of like, you get a deep breath and you're like, you're kind of reminded of the magic of the universe. And it's always kind of given me that opportunity. So I've seen 1111 for over a decade. And before I even knew what I was seeing it. And then it started to catch up with me as I started kind of, awakening and paying more attention to like my own internal thoughts and beliefs and just ideas and opening up to just the cosmos. Then I started realizing that these numbers are kind of like almost that checkpoint that are helping me see that, yes, I am creating my reality. I consistently have choice between, the good or the bad action, the good or the bad habit. What am I doing with my own energy? I always have a choice. How am I perceiving life, in a positive sense or more of a scarce sense of lack? So it's every time I see him, and I'll be doing like computer projects, and it's on like, the video project is on like 1 second, and 11 milliseconds. And then, I see it on a license plate somewhere, and it's just always kind of reminded me about presence. And then of course the balance that we have to have in life, which I think is extremely important, because we can either be too dense, and too three-dimensional and just, we're just robotic consumers, or we could just be like way too like, heady in the clouds, and everything around us is shattering around us and we can't see it. So I think it's a good play to be like, to play with life and just let things kind of be, and then to try and achieve things and work towards it, but also realize it's a game.
Wow.
So cool.
There's so much poetry and all that, and I feel like you really hit a lot that I could really resonate with, and then some things that hadn't even crossed my own path before. Isabel, what do you take from all that?
It's interesting because you brought up like how you didn't really see it at first, but all of a sudden you noticed it, and the more you notice it, the more it comes to you. And 1111 in the world of spirituality is the awakening code. Like it's like almost like the piece that most people will start noticing first. It wasn't for me, but I know for a lot of people, they start noticing numbers. So I love that you bring that up, but I've never heard it in the way of balance. But for me, it makes so much sense, because it goes back to like synergizing into one, right? We're all, and that's the full balance, is the yin and the yang. It's like that piece that goes into, there is divisions, but yet one bring it all together.
Divisions,
right.
Bryan Divisions.
see, you've already said so much about me and my name, and like you hit it right there, because we're all like fractals of this one infinite source, this energy. And I believe God is energy, this energy we can't comprehend fully, but it's love. So I know that if we just focus on love and just being loving to ourselves and the world around us, I mean, that's all we really have to do. Everything else is just the game, and then so I just try to remind, like, okay, even myself some days, just bring it back to that, just what it's about: friends and family, having a good day, appreciating life. All the extra stuff is just bonus,
Yeah. And I love, like, you seem to understand that, like, there is that spiritual aspect, but yet you live on earth in a human body. So you still, like, it's that balance too. You seem to, like, your energy seems to talk about that a lot. Do you resonate with that?
Oh yeah, because I mean, I went through a period of my life. I was pretty much, ever since 17, 18, 19, I was really into like personal development, and I was I was really into like self-realization and stuff like that, even from a younger age. I didn't necessarily have the full spiritual kind of mystic element though, fully. At that point in time, I was, I believed in God, but I was also coming from a Catholic background, so I stopped going to church. And I was like, okay, well, I know that there's this bigger energy, or there's something more, but I kind of just like brushed it aside for a little bit, because I was like, well, I know that some type of God, something exists, but I'll figure that out later. So I spent a lot of time working on myself, and just realizing that, especially relationships show you this about how your energy interacts with other people. And, so whatever I'm bringing into my life, I was starting to see that, I had some patterns that didn't work out. If I was in a social setting and then I made someone feel awkward or bad, or I made them angry, my whole life, I've been very empathic. So I've taken that and I've processed that data and I've implemented it, because I want balance in my life. I want peace. I want calm. So I've slowly just gotten rid of, I wouldn't say gotten rid of, but integrated more of the traumatic experiences of life, and like heartbreaks and, family things and all that, and just integrated it and been like, okay, that's okay, let go of that pattern a little bit, shift this energy, and been doing that for like, a decade. And then with the spirituality, like you're saying, the 11s, when I start seeing these 11s, and start realizing and learning about the law of attraction, and that brings me more into like, oh yeah, I'm creating my reality, and I'm like, this makes sense. And then when I found out more about more channelings from different star systems, and especially the Pleiadian star system, and Cryon, and like I'm listening to all this information, and it's just, the thing that I can tell is that it's all from this place of love for all beings. And I went through this a lot of different psychedelic medicines, psilocybin, marijuana, of course. And this is all like late 20s. I had been more so just like, kind of focused, trying to get out of the social structure path of like, go to school, get the job, get your Mercedes Benz so you fit in with everyone else in the city. Like I didn't want to do any of that, so I was trying to figure it out. But it took this like year or two period where I tried a lot of different stuff. Got into yoga, got into meditation, astral projection frequencies, psychedelics, like I said. And then it just kind of all clicked with me, especially this psilocybin experience. Is just that like all is one. Like there is really nothing separating me and you now. Even though we have this computer and all these miles in front of us, our hearts send this electromagnetic pulse and this energy that is intertwined with all living things, and the air around us. We're just in almost like this just one ecosystem. We're all part of it, And it wasn't just like a cognitive realization, but it was just like a soul felt one. Like I just knew it. I was shown it. I could feel it, and that was the big wake up. So I realized all energy is one. I stopped eating meat that next day. I stopped killing bugs and stuff. I like put them in cups to put them outside and everything. And it just took me on this path, which eventually led me to Asheville and grounded me more, because I went through all of that huge, intense stuff. And I realized, okay, I am living in a three-dimensional reality. I have to make money to pay my bills, to exist, and to be able to nurture this craft of music that I want to build. I can't just only focus on a dream. I have to implement action, and I have to pay attention to the things that are going on around me and balance the two of those. So even though, like the inner child in me just wants to be like this thriving musician and just stay in my room, make music all day long and never do anything else, I also have to be an adult too, and like be realistic and be practical. And I think one of the beautiful things about that is it's helping me communicate more of these deeper aspects of spirituality on a very practical level, because I want people to take me seriously. I don't want people to like think like, oh, that dude's just like living in a dream. I'm like, no, there's reality too. Like I talk about, the negative emotions I have, feelings of guilt and blame and anger and pain and suffering. Like that's all real. And like we all deal with that, but I believe as we go along life, we can just let it dissipate more and more and more. We don't have to continue to suffer over and over. So my approach is just one of like practicality and of kind of meshing more of like fifth dimensional awareness of what's going on in our deeper reality and our spirit with like how we actually interact with this plane of existence. All right, yeah.
It's interesting to hear like how you connect with it so much. Yeah. What about you, and how do you connect with the 1111? Like what was your reaction when you heard that?
So it's interesting because we should point out that we asked Bryan a couple days before this podcast if he'd be a guest.
Yeah.
I communicated when he said yes, and it looked like the time was going to work out, and we started to lock it in. It looked like 1 o'clock was the right time for us to do it, and then I shared that with my partner, my girlfriend, if you will, Taylor, who Bryan has met, and she goes, hey, and it's on the 11th of July, and it was like 1 p.m. on the 11th, and Bryan's number was 1111. And we didn't intend any of that.
So in the 11th episode.
And it was the 11th episode because Isabel threw that in there. Hey, Bryan, did you know that?
It's wild.
Did you pick 1111 based off it being our 11th episode?
Nope.
I feel like
Or
that
did
would be
I?
more my way of describing my connection with 1111. It's always been a bit of a surprise to me. Um, I feel like in some of my channelings and my mystic channelings that random stuff comes through that I don't expect, it's shown me that the universe really is a computer. Zeros and ones. It's all binary code. So it's like ones really do symbolize to me just kind of the building block, as you're almost saying, Brian, from which everything can stem, including the, as we say, the good and the bad, including the suffering. Like it's all part of the system. It's all built into the building blocks of being in a three-dimensional plane here on Earth. So it's all part of the dream. It's all part of the illusion. It's all part of the game. There really is, you can't exclude any of it. Ones, to me, really symbolize that everything is possible from there. And my first introduction to 1111 was when I was in my graduate school in the University of Minnesota in my second semester, and suddenly all this crazy stuff was starting to happen, and I started to go, I'm going to focus on like human trafficking and try and work at the State Department, work with the State Department, and continue my government service and focus on human trafficking. Because all of a sudden, I just slid as if I hit ground zero, and I couldn't really function. And it was like I said, fine, I'm going to start like taking a shower. But the bathroom that I had at the time didn't have any windows. It was deep into the apartment. And so I'd close the door, I'd light a candle, I'd light some incense, and I'd put on some ambient music, and I would start to just like shower in that and just go, okay, what can I do? Like, what's possible here? And then I heard like a voice, the very first time that I could ever recognize that I heard a voice. It said, and this was March of 2011, it said, make your final project in school that you're going to build a global day of prayer on 11/11/11. And I was like, that sounds really woo-woo out there crazy shit to me, but it was so strong. I figured, what do I have to lose? Because at this point, my awakening had caused me to be in a destruction of life anyway. So I felt like I can't get any worse or crazier. Well, I started to like create a Facebook page, and then as I reached out, I found out that there was tons of days of positive energy for 11/11/11. So I totally dialed into the collective consciousness for the first time, knowingly, because of 11s. So
wow,
I think those would be my stories with 11s and ones. I never really know. I just feel like right now they're really appearing a lot, and I feel like it's because I just went through the whole gamut of the hero's journey, the spiritual journey. Like now there's nothing spiritual about my life anymore, except that everything is spiritual. It's all the same. And so I didn't know what to do from there. And now I'm getting to just build and create and make all my wildest dreams come true, all the dreams that have been in my psyche kind of somehow, some way since I was young. And it's like, so I feel like 11s and ones are coming to me now, as I was saying, you're back at ground zero, you're back at binary code. So what do you want to create? You just went through the entire human experience, top to bottom, side to side, you name it. You're full circle. So now what do you want to create and start anew? I guess that's what I would say my association with ones are.
That is so cool because yesterday or 2 days ago, I've been getting a lot of messages. So Brian, I connect a lot with nature, and that's how I get my messages. But sometimes I'll just wake up and I'll have a word in my head and I know exactly what it means. And yesterday was a day like that, and it was so interesting because what I was shown in the past few weeks is like we're moving into a new paradigm. It's almost like, you know how in the spiritual world they say we're upgrading, like we're downloading new information and just upgrading. But what I was shown is that it's not an upgrade, it's a total shift of paradigm. Like you're moving to a new game. And I got that message yesterday. And I shared that with Chris, the founder from the Heart Center. And he's like, do you realize that today is the 10 and yesterday was 9, and 9 represent the end of a cycle, 1, 0 represent the beginning of a new cycle. And I said, this is so funny because tomorrow we're talking about 11/11, which is like, basically it's like we're moving into a new beginning, like a complete, like the universe. Yeah. And what I got this morning or yesterday morning is that it's another type of awakening, but it's the awakening of the life force within us. And I want to hear from you guys what you think that means, basically.
Yeah. Right. Totally. Well, I agree with all that, and especially too when I love when you said like life is binary, because I really do see it like that too. Because I mean, you really do have your constant choice of opposites, and from that, you know, we have these subsets of all these different realities that are possible that we could create. Like in this room right here, I can orient this room to do a zillion different things in it, and those are all realities, and they could all manifest. And like sometimes it's overwhelming to know that, but like you're saying, Isabel, about the awakening of the spirit, and I think it's all tied into self-love and self-worth. You know, I think that's the root of our power, our true power. When we're able to look past our you know, our traumas and the things that have happened to us, when we're able to let go of blaming ourselves and blaming everyone around us, you know, it's an ongoing process. But I feel like we're in this new age now where we're allowing that healing to take place. And then, you know, when we can come see ourselves from this place of like, okay, you know, like these things happened to me, or I did these things, but it's okay. Like I'm not gonna beat myself up about it. I'm here and I'm now. What am I doing now? Who am I really? You know, what energy am I really sharing with the world? You know, as we blend those energies and bring in more self-love and self-worth, then we can tap into what I think that the big shift is that shift of unconditional love and compassion. You know, because we have so many true issues in the world. You know, we can talk about, you know, climate change and fossil fuels. We can talk about animal agriculture. You know, and these are all things that I fully are aware of. But you know, the biggest thing is just, you know, human rights and just humans not seeing each other as equal, not seeing each other equal, you know, to the planet, to nature, and not feeling equal in our own selves with our own masculine and feminine energies. So it's the healing of like the self. And you know, we've had generations and generations and generations of these just lower energies, all this pain and suffering and blame and guilt. I mean, that's not just individually, but collectively as societies and as just a planet. And I'm seeing the shift, and it really does kind of help like happen as one individual at a time starts kind of waking up to their own traumas and passing through those and integrating those and moving forward into more of their light, more of their truth, more of their heart. Then they start sharing it with other people, and it's just a change of a frequency. It's just the increase of that beautiful love, you know.
Yeah.
And I believe it's just going to keep getting faster, and eventually we're going to see more things change from more culture to culture. And I think that's how, individually, and then more so, you know, okay, maybe this country changes first, and that helps change the world in a sense, and we all start seeing different things. But I think we're here. We're gonna make it happen. But you know,
yeah, we definitely are. And what you just said, like higher frequencies, lower frequencies, and then you kind of amended it in a different way. It strikes a conversation that I had with a coworker of mine recently, who Bryan, you guys are going to have to meet. His name is Alex, and we both do landscaping, and naturally the universe takes you where you're supposed to be. You don't. And he and I speak the exact same language. He's half my age, exactly half my age. And we speak the exact same language. And when I was 24, I might have had the maturity, but I don't think I would have had the self-awareness to have conversations that I do these days. And here, the younger generation is super equipped for it. And when he starts talking about what we tend to, I think, falsely call high vibe and low vibe, higher density, lower density, it's false. It's all one. If we're going to talk about oneness, we have to say that everything is one. We have to say that good and bad is actually the same thing. We have to say that suffering and pain and anger and killing and murder and rape are all the same as love and joy and acceptance and peace. It's all the same. Now maybe we can, as humans, we need to categorize things. So maybe if we need to categorize it, we could just say, like Alex said, it's a different bandwidth. You know,
right,
different bandwidth of operating, and it ties into what Isabel was saying. Like, we're in a time of a complete paradigm shift, and what I've noticed internally is that part of that paradigm shift is no longer do I get psychic information. I do, but it tends to be like a fraction true at this point. like not even a full story, it's not a leg to stand on anymore. So I believe, and I said this sort of to Isabel in a message yesterday, that the new paradigm I'm in, where psychic information is almost like playing in a sandbox as a kindergartner. You know, it's like it has almost so little value that the bigger value now is just to be super present and play and be in joy for everything. And that's where true creation comes from anyway. And if we're always using psychic information, what we're actually doing is it's a self-protective layer. We're saying we can't be present enough to honor and love everything in ourselves enough in the moment. So we have to look in and get answers.
That's interesting.
Not that we can't all be psychic, because I think that's part of our telepathy as well, but using it as a high vibration, I'm going to make fun of spirituality here, as a high vibration kind of experience is actually a low vibration experience if we want to classify things, because you're actually operating from fear and self-preservation by trying to be psychic and get information, when not everybody is operating from that same level of telepathy.
Yeah.
But I think part of the new paradigm shift is like creating so many brand new things that we don't even rely on shamans and psychics and gurus. We just simply say, this is what we are, all of us.
Yeah. You know, I think too, like if, you know, say a group of people are working on a project together, you know, someone could have that download of that information. But I mean, that could be coming from, you know, their heart or the collective there. And it doesn't have to have necessarily like any type of mask over it, other than just intuition and, you know, tapping in. And, you know, if you could tap into it in the present and use it when you need it, versus kind of like put it in this like corner of the room and, you know, put a sign up, you know, like readings, you know, necessarily, because it's all a part of all of us, you know, because we're just sensing energy. But I know what you mean about like kind of almost capturing it and putting it, you know, somewhere else. And I liked what you said too about, you know, the aspect of vibes, because really, you know, a vibration of like pain and suffering. Like you were saying, it's the same energy of everything, but it's at a much, almost not really a lower, because, you know, we're humans, so we like to do the totem pole, but almost just like a more slow vibe, you know, that you just, when you feel that pain and suffering, you feel in every single cell in your body, and it's an eternity. And then when you're, you know, loving, it's just everything is just beautiful and just radiant and light, and you see, you know, the sparkle in their eye, and you see the sun, and you see the leaves, branches. So you're essentially seeing more light, you're interpreting more. Like, and like you're saying, instead of becoming more introverted, going within, and then just delving into that murky, shallow, or the deep, deep, dark pool of just sorrow and blame. You know, those emotions are like a part of our, you know, humanity to deal with. So I don't say restrict those. I say whenever we feel those and they come up, we need to feel them, but we need to process them. And to do that is to feel them and cry. And whenever you know, don't ever feel bad about crying. Don't ever feel bad about getting angry. It's okay, but you got to think. Don't punch a window. You know, if you're going to punch anything, punch a pillow, you know? Like, let it out. Scream in the shower if you need to. Don't knock someone out. And I
got to say, I've broken a few windows. I've punched a few holes in doors. And I got to say that somehow it was super cathartic at the time. And it still tickles me to think about. So I still don't know. I think we got to flush this out more. Maybe we won't do it today.
Dude, I've cut down a, I mean, sometimes it's just the way you can, you know, I put the energy into music now, but before, I remember I punched this glass poster and had my hand all bloody. I punched my skateboard before. And, you know, I just, you know, I mean, I cut down a small tree before to get angry. around. You know what I mean? I'm like, that tree didn't deserve it. You know, that tree was a fine, healthy tree.
But maybe that tree made an agreement to live that experience out with you, like surely from a mystical place, don't you think?
Yeah, true. I needed it. He's like, dude, I'm here. Synergistic relationship.
Funny because
that's the balance, man.
Listening to both of you, like it come to mind that some listeners that are listening to the podcast right now are probably having trouble understanding like how do we combine like both aspects and how do you balance it. And 2 nights ago I came across a skunk, and unlike usual skunk that would turn around and kind of warn you like if you come any closer I'm going to spray you, this one was facing me and I could see the perfect 2 lines on its body. And it was so cool because when I connected with the energy of the skunk, what I got for message is that you can clearly see the white and the black, which represent the clarity. So the clarity, the distinction of 2 things, but yet it's still part of a whole. And I think like it was so cool for message because, and the skunk also represent the male and female energy somehow, but it's still part of a whole. And I feel like for listeners, if you're having difficulty understanding like how can you not categorize and yet balance everything and all this, I think it's okay to have clarity in the sense of recognizing, right, that yes, there is female and male energy, or there is purple colors and there is pink colors, but yet it's all part of the same oneness, right? It's all part of the same energy that surrounds us. But I think it allows us to have clarity.
And speaking in terms of like Bryan's realm, music, we're talking amplitude modulation, frequency modulation. It all plays in. You got to have it all for music, right? And if you're talking, you could talk a rock band where you have a bass guitarist, you got a drum set which has a bass drum and snares and cymbals. You know, you have the electric guitar which can go really, really screaming high sounds. You have the vocalist. And in some heavy metal music, like a vocalist will hit really, really, really high pitch notes and sometimes really, really low pitch notes. And and then we could take it to an orchestra where you have the timpani and you have the tuba. You have these really, really deep bassy instruments combined with the flutes and with, you know, all things in between. So again, like if we're talking about oneness, taking it back to 11:11, right? How is it all not perfect? It's all just one big symphony. I think what I would take it to is there's a Russian composer who's not alive anymore called Alexander Scriabin. I'm not sure how you'd say it in Russian. He was synesthetic, so he, like me, experienced energy in multiple fashions. He could taste it, he could smell it, and he was a well-known composer in Russia, and he was trying to intentionally, first of all, he said, "I am God," which was so taboo in Russia in the time of the world at that time. Oh,
dude.
And he said,
still now too. But Russia back then? Woo.
And he was right. And he was saying, I'm trying to create the perfect harmony. I'm trying to create all the one musical note from which all musical notes stem. And I'm trying to learn how to play it so that what will happen is it will hit a point in all of us and we'll hear it and we'll know it and we'll start to dance ecstatically to it for days. We'll start to sing ecstatically to it for days. And suddenly it'll come to a coalition where we all just combust essentially and create a brand new world.
Wow.
So like when we talk about, again, when we talk about oneness and in 11:11 and binary and all these things, I think it's really, really important to say that all musical instruments, all frequencies of human experience are designed for a purpose or we wouldn't have them. And I think maybe the better way is to say that what we're trying to do as a collective is harmonize all of our collective frequencies, including the pain and the suffering, the anger, the rape, the mutilation, harmonize them all into one so that, boom, as a collective, we create something brand new.
Totally.
A new decibel.
Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just a fucking crazy madman.
No, I love that because I record all my music, I produce it, and I mix it, And that totally is like a perfect analogy, because when I'm looking at all the different instruments playing in together, and like you were saying, with the band, I construct my music kind of almost like I'm thinking from the headspace as like a band, you know. I work on my drummer, so I've got my different drums, you know, like you're saying, the kick, the snare, and the cymbals. And then I move in and I do like usually like a synth or guitar or something for the melody. And then I'll either have like a second one, you know, harmony go with it. And of course I'm the vocalist. And then when it's all kind of, you know, I've got all the music, it's all written, then I go into the recording and then the mixing phase. So that's where I'm really dealing with all these different frequencies and how they intersect and blend with each other. Because the overall objective is to get the most clear, crisp, beautiful sound as far as the different dimensions that the sound can go through, and just have this perfectly balanced 11-11. Oh yeah, just a nice balanced mix where it just sounds good, where the vocals sound great with the synths and then the drums. And it definitely reminds me of, like, you know, with our lives, and then especially as an individual, if we're doing some individual work and we're creating more love in our life, then we're spreading that throughout this whole collective, and it is meshing and it is going out through every aspect because it all is one. So even just making like a positive choice in the day, it is enough to make you feel good throughout that day, because you are being, you know, when you express from the heart, you tell someone something good, or you're there for them when they need you. I mean, little things like that do create huge ripple effects, and music has kind of shown me that. I think too, I've been growing a little food this year, first time ever, just some peppers and tomatoes, and it's just helping me see just like more of nature, more of the behind the scenes, and to witness the magic, you know, just seeing how it's all perfect. It really is. And humans, our job is to I really think is to get in alignment with that perfection, because right now we're like going the complete wrong way. So some of us are like, all right, wait, we got to go over here, or like, who's got a map? Like, okay, wait, let's what are we doing? You know, like, let's figure this out. So I think we're in the redirection phase. Like, all right, guys, let's go over here. And I feel good, especially when you think about all this new technology that's coming out too, that's going to help, you know, change the planet, get us more aligned. And of course music, of course conversations and podcasts like this, the more and more of us that just talk about it, the more it makes it just real, solid.
It almost makes it a solid. It redirects the flow. Because in many of my channelings, I've asked, like, why is this journey so important to me right now? Because personally, there's a part of my mind that still was just fine before the awakening really started to consume my life. And now, granted, I was going through the grind like so many people, wondering why I was suffering, why I had anger, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, I was doing a good job, you know? And I was making choices that I was comfortable with. I just wanted to know where my choices were coming from, why I was choosing certain things over other things, why my choices were perpetually causing a little more anger and suffering. I just wanted to know the reason for these things, but not to a degree that I wanted to go on a journey to find it out, you know? Just how can I live my best life with what I've been given, kind of what we're all taught in a way. So many times channeling, I've asked, like, why? What's so important about this right now? Like, why can't I just go do what I was doing before? Why can't I go be in the CIA like I had wanted to, or the State Department, you know? And it was like, well, you can, but why important now is like, you need to stick around, because what's coming is so fucking amazing. This is what you came into the body for. Yeah. It's like, otherwise, you're right. Like, the channeling voice will come. Otherwise, you're right. You could go out and you could still be a pirate and a Viking. You could just go destroy shit for fun, because that's fun. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's just that it's time now that the earth has actually exhausted that frequency range, if we want to call it that. We've exhausted that realm. And so when Isabel talks about a paradigm shift, it seems like that's all it's all about. It's not about better or worse. All that we were over the last few thousand years, it's what's gotten us to the ability to move ahead. So it's served as a stepping stone. an intentional stepping stone from the cosmic perspective. So the next is just brand new, and that's why we want to change. We're just tired of playing the old human game. That's what always comes to me in the channeling sphere.
It's interesting when hearing you talking about like where you could have gone and actually you went another direction that is more meaningful, I guess, in terms of like spiritual self and soul. And I want to hear Bryan about music, because for you it seems to be your milestone, or like how did it come into your journey?
Well, for me, I remember I was probably like 10 when I was first started writing like little lyrics and poems and stories, just as a way to express my emotions, going back to that state. I was just, even as a young kid, I was, I went to a school with like 30 kids in each grade. So I had some good friends, but one of my best friends at the time, childhood friends, moved to my school, and it just shifted everything. Like, we were no longer tight. It kind of shifted the whole dynamic. So, and then coming back home with family stuff, I didn't feel, it wasn't until I was much older, where I could have normal conversations about this type of stuff with my parents. As a 10-year-old, it was very much so, I didn't really have a lot that I was able to express. And I remember just being this extremely empathic kid that just wanted to live in peace. That was pretty much what it is. So just having to deal with stuff at school and at home really attracted me to music. And I started listening to, I grew up listening to like Michael Jackson and like Criss Cross, Belle Biv DeVoe, a lot of like R&B type stuff like that when I was really young. But around 10, I found out about like Korn, and like eventually got into like Linkin Park and like Slipknot and like all these more like darker bands. But these were the first times I heard other people expressing some of these emotions that I felt, at least now there's people who are going through stuff that's like worse than me, you know what I mean? Or I'm just a kid, I have no one to talk to. I have this music in my room. So I remember so much just going and getting CDs, at the stores. That's what we used to do back then, and popping them in, and I would just be in my room for like hours, and so I had to kind of deal with that, and that led me to just writing my stuff in books and stuff. And as I got a bit older, I never really thought about music too much, other than, when I got in high school, I started seeing a lot of my friends join bands, and they were really good. And from my experience, I can play guitar a bit, I can write stuff, but to play it like efficiently enough in a band, I'm like, there was just so many people that were like way better than me at that. And I saw that, and I was just like, I was a fan, I was a big supporter. So a few years after that, I'd actually got asked to play bass guitar in this one band show. It's like a pretty new band, and they asked me to play, and I was like, okay, well, bass is pretty easy. If I mess it up, not that many people will know. So I was like, this will be fun, and I just said, this will be fun, let's do it. So I ended up playing that show, and I loved it. They asked me to join the band, and we were like a hardcore, like screaming band. Like it was definitely fun. But, about a year and a half in, I started, this is my like early 20s. I'm seeing more of the dynamics of the band play out, a lot of, issues with their relationships, with, girls and stuff. And I was in it because this is so much fun. And I was like, man, this would be so cool to do. But I saw that like I was going out of my way to try to book these shows and to get us out there. And a lot of other guys were like on, I just feel like they're just there for the ride and stuff. And I eventually kind of left that behind, and that was really rough for me. That kind of started the awakening kind of for me, because I left behind this whole community of like hundreds of people that I knew from being in a band and being in this music scene, and just stopped. And then it was that summer that I came back. I was hanging out, living with my brother for a bit, and we just started freestyling. We have a buddy, my buddy Nova, shout out Nova Bernard. I just saw him up in Maryland a couple weeks ago, but he's a skateboarder friend of ours. But we would hang out, and we would just start freestyle rapping, and that was the first time in my life I did it. And I was like maybe like 24 maybe. And like I was good at it and it was so fun. And I used to, rap about more funny stuff, but as I started going through more of the awakening and I eventually met another friend of mine who rapped and is a really good rapper. Shout out Trey Vega. Just really good. Recorded himself, just killed it. And we were on this similar vibe. We were understanding that, the life around us, all these systems that are in place are just not for the betterment of society. They're for profit. So we're seeing all this, we're going through our own awakenings respectively. And that kind of led me to realizing, okay, I've been waiting my whole life to express myself and to communicate and open up this throat chakra and say how I feel. And that's what just kind of just shot me into rapping, because I produced a couple beats, but it was just that energy that said, you know what, I need to rap. I have something that I want to say. And I need to say it for me, regardless of, if people vibe with it. Of course, I want them to vibe with it. I want to make those connections with other people, truly. But I have to make that connection with myself, too, first. And that just led me just to that path. So I've taken kind of all the different skills and experiences I've had from being around other people, recording music and doing this and that throughout my life, and just put it all together and realized, okay, if I'm going to do this, I have this platform now where I get to create. I get to create my songs. I get to write every little melody. I get to make my lyrics. I get to produce it the way I want. I edit my own music videos. It's this beautiful, beautiful path, because I get to just, everything's like my canvas. That's how it really feels. So it's kind of gotten me to the point now where, I've been able to invest in better equipment so I can record myself at a higher quality, because I always listen to, the stuff that's on the radio or the stuff that it has the best quality in these big studios. And I'm like, how do I do this? So it's been that path of like figuring it out on my own, asking lots of people who have been into music longer than me, going online, doing a lot of research. And I feel so happy that this album, Surrender, that's coming out next month, I feel so good about it because I spent so much time on it, and it's just crisp. And it's just like the volume's the right way I want it to be. My voice is just clear and smooth and just crisp. I just got it. I got all those pieces to kind of come together, and it's taken years. It really, really has. A lot of hours, lots of frustrating struggles and wanting to quit, and sitting here in this like room with no AC, and it's like hot, and I'm in like shorts, and I'm just like, no, I got to figure this out. I have to do it right now today. And I'm at this point now where I have a system and I have a process, and I'm so grateful for that. And regardless of even if nothing happened, I put this album out and the album's out now, I accomplished it. You know what I mean? And I've gained all these skills and these experiences. So I've had to also fine tune myself to not want to make music for an external reason as much. You know what I mean? I have to make music that's true for me, and I just have to just do it. And if I make a whole lot of money, cool. If I don't make a whole lot of money, cool. Why am I doing it? I'm doing it to express myself and to speak my truth, open my heart, and to connect with other people, because the connection is more important than any of the external things that are actually happening before, during, or after music or any of this stuff. Even if you guys blow up with your podcast, the only thing that matters, right, is the connection. What's the heart communicating to the other hearts? You know what I mean? No matter if you move, you get a big, we get big studios and all this stuff. We gotta still remember what's true, and that's what keeps us, again, going back to balance, keeping us on that path of balance, and not letting the ego adapt to where it's like in check, because we have to have ego. It's part of us, it's part of our identity, but I think it could be malleable. So I think it's a little too much to just try to throw the ego away and say I don't have one, because we need one. But it's cool to understand it and like play with it and like realize I guess the best way to say is we're part animal and we're part God. We have biological impulses, and we have reactions, and we have, the fight or flight response, and these things happen. But we also have, the prefrontal cortex. We have the connection to the spiritual plane, the pineal gland, and we have DMT all in our bodies. We don't only have to smoke it. You can just we have the ability to breathe and just relax in nature and get information from a tree. Like it's so
from
real.
A skunk.
Yeah, and a skunk. Yeah, it's all connected.
It's so cool to hear you talk, because you use the word play a lot, and I can see the joy, and it goes back to what Wynn was saying, right? Like joy and play is why we're here.
Yeah, I think that's tapping into the real energy of that next level we're moving into. Is just reclaiming the childlike aspect of our nature. Because if you can imagine, okay, if we could just imagine a better world, okay, everyone's fed, everyone has water, most basically everyone has some shelter, and then if that's the point, everyone's got that stuff taken care of. We can literally play. We can play in the garden. We can help teach each other how to make music and how to paint and how to make things. And like there still can be industry. There still can be all of these beautiful things. There could still be money. It's just everything can be in balance from this place of like abundance, and not, oh well, I don't have the same amount of stuff that you have. I need to go get something else over here. We just need these fundamental things. And I mean, I really do. I know it's just going to be cool to see how it like plays out, throughout our lives and stuff. And I can't put any time on anything. I love to see it happen in my life, but if it doesn't happen in this lifetime, I'll be back for the next one. I'll catch it then. It's in alignment with like our hearts opening up and not being jealous about what other people have, and not being influenced to be jealous about what other people have. It's not always us. We have a lot of systems in place that tell us how to think and what to think. So, it's a good reminder to not beat ourselves up for not always being super happy all the time. That's okay too.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Hey, and you were talking about your new album, and I think I heard Wynn saying that he was part of one of your music video.
Yeah. So we have that shoot coming up. What is that, on the 22nd?
The 22nd, a week from this coming Sunday. That's right.
So I'll tell you too, I've been working more intensely on that video the last day, because it's pretty close to being done. I have a few more scenes I have to do, but it's for my song Source. So this is track 1 on Surrender.
Okay.
And it's really all about, you can find the source that's inside of you. Because that really is the truth. We have the ability to make our own decisions to create our lives. And that source, that part of the Creator, God, love, all that is, it is within us. It's throughout us as well. It's everything. So, I just want to kind of like bring awareness to that idea that we already have it. We are the source. We're from the source. Just like when you look at the stars in the sky at night, like that's you. For all we know, that could be part of our brain that we're looking up at. Who knows how this is structured, but like we have this ability to create our lives. And just to see like how much I've helped heal myself and healed relationships, that I've been in, especially like family and friends and things like that, and keeping an open heart. It led to like that's the whole focus of this album. So this video was all shot in Mexico. So my girlfriend Jenny and I, my twin flame, we finally made our trip, our first ever out of the country trip this year, and we went to Tulum, Mexico. And we like dreamt about it for a few years, and we finally just did it this year. And it's really through just to show you the paradigm shifting. I made this money from just making rap videos online using like a blockchain-based social network called Steemit. So I was actually able to make cryptocurrency doing things I love to do, and was able to use that to get my passport and to take this trip. So we stayed in Tulum for a week, and we actually shot most of these video scenes at the Mayan ruins. So that was just amazing for me, because it's been my dream to like go see pyramids and to be around this, just some type of ancient civilization and just feel it, So a lot of the scenes are of me actually, Well, the full story is actually going with wind included. It's going to start out with actually me. I'm going to use this backdrop for the opening scene. It'll just be me in my room. And the lyrics go, as I sit in my room and meditate, I translate visions of another realm, a different place where truth is safe. So I just start out kind of meditating, and then all in my mind, I venture off, and I'm in a forest, and that's where I see Wind. And approach Wind. He's already ready for me with a nice fire. We've got basically a ceremony awaiting, and it's going to be just an energy clearing session. So his character is just going to basically attune me and kind of get me ready. He's going to be kind of like my shaman in this experience to get me ready to climb this pyramid. So I already have the footage of me climbing the rope up this pyramid, and it's just, I think it's like 151 steps on this one. This was the Notec Mall over in Coba, Mexico, in the Yucatan Peninsula. So we got there super early in the morning to get there. So we were the first ones there because I was like, I knew we didn't have a whole lot of time because, you know, tourists. Like, I'm like, tourists. And I'm like, I'm a tourist too. Like, I got to remember that. So, yeah, so we get up there, and I basically climb the top of the pyramid, and there's this doorway at the very top, which I enter. And then that goes into more of a, I'd say more of a very spiritual awakening type of experience that I'm going to show visually. So I have some cool stuff with some fire and torches that I've already shot. So I've got most of it done. So when we do your footage, within that next day, I'll be able to probably finish the video, which is awesome because the video will drop the same day as the album, August the 24th of this year. And then I have another show here at in Asheville at Timo's house. It's like the full release party. So that's on Friday, August the 24th too. So it's taken a lot of trial and error to try to sync these things up. And okay, now there's an album, there's a music video, and then there's the show all on the same day. Like, it's taken a couple of years, but now I feel like I'm getting a hang of the my own geometry, if you would, or like how my own processes work and how to structure my own flow.
Yeah. So is there?
So Bryan,
go ahead, Win.
I was just going to ask Bryan how else people can locate you on Spotify or other platforms then.
Yeah, sure. Like, I'm on all streaming platforms. It's Bryan Divisions, BRYAN DIVISIONS. Yeah, so YouTube, I got a bunch of music videos on there. Spotify is my biggest platform. So I'm at like 400 some thousand streams now, and
wow.
That's like huge for me because that Spotify actually pays artists royalties. So every time someone listens to my music on like Spotify or Apple Music, I actually make money from it, and it totally adds up. And like, as far as the new paradigm, I can see this in the future where, I mean, there's plenty of artists already making a full-time income just from people listening to their music. So I do see that in as far as my quantum future. That's what I want to create, a nice stable reality and income just from listening. And I'm getting there now, so I'm grateful already. But yeah, I'm everywhere online, Bryan Divisions.
Huh, that's so cool.
Nice.
And we'll make sure to add all the information on the Facebook page and Instagram also. We're going to conclude this podcast with the song "Surrender." Do you want to talk about that song? Like, what?
Oh yeah, because the story on that is just wild. Because I was at my buddy Vega's house 5 years ago. My buddy Mike Trey Vega. This is 2013, and that's when I realized, okay, this is a year after the band thing, and I was like, I got to get back into music. And he was the rapper I was telling you about, who was just on point. And so I'm living with him for a few months, and I'm like, I've got to make some music. So Surrender, the track, not the full album. The album goes by the same name, but the track was the second beat I produced there, and this was like April, May of 2013.
Wow.
And I had written lyrics to it, and I actually had changed them, and they didn't make the first album that I put out, Shavai, in 2015. So it had kind of been in like the back burner of my mind for so long because I loved the beat. I loved the intense of like the electronic fused with the rap, but it took me a while to like anchor down on the real lyrics because the main focus, I kind of directed the song, it really is about surrendering to your heart. And you know, our minds can go wild with infinite possibilities, but our heart has this one whisper of just like truth, and it's so easy to hear, but so easy to just like bypass too, and be like, it's got to be more complicated than that, dude. So you know, I was able to finally finish this song this year. You know, I mix it at my house here, but I always go out in the car to just fine tune things and get it sounding good, because I want to be on those road trips bumping it. And I know we listen to a lot of our music in the car, so I always fine tune it there. So the album, you know, is based off of it, and I use that song as just like that crux of what it really is, especially because it's been there in my life for 5 years now, unreleased, you know, and it's just been this thing that I've constantly had to look at. Like on my board over here, I have all these goals, which like include, okay, build a house, and I have release Surrender album. That's how important it is to me as far as a manifestation. So to know that it's out, it's uploaded to the channels and stuff, and it'll drop that day, it's awesome. So I made sure I named the album Surrender too, because the process of dealing with that and like being patient and balancing life for all these years as I go through my own process and try to figure my own self out. Because, you know, when I started being, you know, the awakening, I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to be a rapper or I'm going to be a musician even. You know, it just all kind of manifested as it went on. So I'm still in the process of seeing where things go. So I just have to surrender.
Yeah, that's it. Good one.
Awesome. Yeah, and hopefully, you know, this podcast is a extra stepping stone in your journey of like, maybe you'll get on some other radio shows and just get yourself heard a little bit more, you know?
Yeah, I appreciate you guys so much. Like, I love doing these. I love having, you know, talks, especially when we can be just open about like spirituality and awareness and consciousness, and I love it. So I appreciate you all for having me on.
Yeah.
You too. You're definitely a heart master, Bryan.
Yeah.
Oh,
awesome.
Thank you, bro. Takes one to know one, bro.
I'm just a shyster.
Namaste, bro.
All right, brother. Good to have you.
All right, see you, Isabel. Peace, Win.
Chat with you.
Love you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, surrender to the heart that's inside and leave behind all the lies and the thoughts of the mind. All these doubts and these fears try to blind, but when you transcend it, it's God you will find. Give yourself time to refocus. Notice you are not hopeless, your higher self knows this. Your feelings inside show this emotion can take you from closed into open to the wholeness. No more hypnosis and no more confusion. It's your true power you're using. Limitations from the past you were losing. Energy from the source field you are moving. Proving that your soul will always expand. When you take action on your conscious demands, you're making a stand, creating this plan, changing your world once you say that you can. Yeah, you start feeling the shift, allowing the presence in infinite bliss. You've been granted a wish, the present is here, a love you cannot miss. Higher consciousness to create new life. Once we recognize that we're made of light, we give up the fight and loosen the vice to prove that the wise to reach a new height. Yeah, and it's much more than sight, cause you cannot see it and you cannot flee it. Yeah, and it's changing your life when your mind believes that your spirit will free it. Yeah, leaving this place filled with the darkness where light's been erased. Yeah, changing your state, begin to harness yourself in time and space. Yeah, bring light to this day, cast away shadows, this present is safe. And it's gone in a blaze, the fire will leave your true self in its place. Surrender to who you truly remember yourself to be. Remember your truest self is surrender to set you free. Surrender to who you truly remember yourself to be. Remember your truest self is surrender to set you free. Yeah, this power I feel deep inside, I know it's real. I'll never yield. Reflected the suffering, my heart's a shield. It's time to reveal who I am and my essence. Take a deep breath and find my presence. Those blessings always hidden as lessons, giving me answers to all of my questions. The severance between truth and the source guides me to explore and open these doors. The ceiling's the floor, the ground is the sky. I need to know more what's driving my life. Watch it go by as day turns to night. Rise like the temperature, oceans go dry. It's not a surprise, the feelings subside as I'm cast away to a void with no light. I need to know why I'm feeling this way inside. My spirit's like, cannot hide. It's time for it to come alive. I'm here to decide. If I give up, I die. And if I don't try, I'll be living a lie. I'll be living a lie. surrender to who you truly remember yourself to be. Remember your truest self and surrender to set you free. Surrender to who you truly remember yourself to be. Remember your truest self and surrender to set you free. Yeah, and like years have passed, now I find myself living in this aftermath. There's no going back to when my soul was trapped and my wings were taken, now I'm grown and back. Yeah, and I've been shown the facts to everything that this universe contains. I'm living through the full range of the spectrum of light when I let in the night and experience change. Just to understand how it expands, it's a part of the plan. When I've been feeling this pain, I'll be fearing this change on a new land where I stand, where my energy is interfering the same. I begin to see a new path, which should always last and relax. Truth is here, and there is no going back. Holding that with the bar regards, if the cards fall, be what they are, but just play them off. Paint the walls of my world with new colors. When I open up my new senses, a glimpse under the covers to a life with no error is smothered. No limitations, fascination denying you to hover above your own thoughts and perceive for three that it's your soul's is the need to set your throne life free. The sacred geometry's pulling in harmony, taking my physical matter and bonding me with the spirit of all that is, a new way that I can exist. And through my heart I'ma choose to live. I surrender to eternal bliss. Surrender, surrender, surrender to who you truly are. Yes, I know that you remember. Surrender, 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 surrender to who you truly are. Yes, I know that you remember.